Welcome in, my dolls and figurines. I'm DARKBARBiEDiFFERENT, and today I'm going to be sharing another one of my collections, one of my favorite and one of my longest running collections of my whole life is my vintage games collection, starting with my PlayStation 1 right here, my Nintendo 3DS, which I did start out with the initial regular DS, which I don't have anymore, but still have a lot of the original games. One of my favorite PlayStation 2 games, which you can see on the background here. And I'm gonna just go over some nostalgic titles from a bunch of different eras, including PC, Nintendo DS. I'm going to talk about vintage games like the Game Boy, the Super Nintendo. I do not have those two anymore, but I did start out with those. I still have the Wii, the Xbox 360, the Xbox, PS3. We also have the PlayStation 2, the PlayStation 1. I play it on a vintage TV because to me, the graphics actually work better on an old TV, and we do have it hooked to the receiver, which is for my record player, but the sound works better through that. And also I have a Nintendo Switch, which I don't play very often anymore, to be honest. I went way too hard during quarantine. And I also have a gaming PC. So I guess I'm going to start in order, and we're going to talk about what got me into gaming. My first games were Super Nintendo, I want to say. My parents had that when I was really little, and I don't quite remember it, but one of my best friends growing up had a Super Nintendo, and we used to play Super Mario and Zelda, which I didn't super get into Zelda, but she did. And when we were mad, we used to bite the controllers and get in trouble for it, so that's just a little story of like my start into gaming. And then my parents had the PlayStation 1, which we all absolutely fell in love with. Let me grab some of the games that I still have to this day and talk about some faves. So I want to say, besides the Super Nintendo, and with a lot more experience than the Super Nintendo, I have with the PlayStation 1. I basically would say I started mostly with this system because my parents had them at home. I think they did have a Super Nintendo. I was just too little to like remember it and remember playing that more at my friends. The PlayStation 1 we had at my mom's and at my dad's, and I honestly loved all of these games. These are the games that I kept from my childhood. I did have more, and also my dad used to get those like Game Informer and like PlayStation magazines, and we had stacks of demos, which were amazing back in the day. In the early 2000s, a demo was like a full level of playthrough, which as a kid I could replay those levels for years to come. But let's talk about some of my favorite titles. This is a weird spin-off Spice Girls game. Absolutely check it out if you're into like Bratz or mini games. It's like a weird little interactive music experience, and it literally is from Hollywood Video, sold 2001. That's so cool. My dad must have gotten this for me like when they went out of business or something. But this game, honestly freaking great. You got to like pick little parts of the songs and put them together and then make like a little music video with like these like very 2D looking, I don't even know if you could see that, but very 2D looking Spice Girls. It was freaking great, which actually, since it's right here, very of the era of my live Spice Girls, which I got with that TV for like my 10th birthday or Christmas when I was 10. So very of the era, and does go with the PlayStation, to be honest. And then some of my other first games were definitely these, and I think this is the order they go in: Spyro the Dragon, Ripto's Rage, and then Year of the Dragon, which honestly all three are great for different reasons. And I did buy the trilogy for the Switch, the remastered. Honestly, if you were a Spyro fan and you're gonna play them, it was worth it. Still haven't beat the trilogy. These games you could play for years to come. I still like the PlayStation version, but the cool part about the remaster on the Switch is the dragons look so, like, more full-fledged, like, put together. And then Crash Bandicoot Warped. I think it's the third Crash game, but it's, like, the best one, and I have beat this, like, so many times. And I'm pretty sure they actually remade that for the Switch as well, but I didn't get that. This was another weird spin-off game. This was the only Mary-Kate and Ashley game that I played, Winner's Circle, and I absolutely loved it. You got to just, like, ride around as horses, and there was, like, 3 speeds, and none of them were very fast. I remember that much about it. Like, it took forever to, like, do a thing, but as a kid, that game was really fun. I will never get rid of that game, to be honest. I know there was also, like, a Mary-Kate and Ashley, like, Mall Madness thing. I always wanted to try, but I never did. These games were freaking epic. They're not your average, like, Pac-Man. They're Maze Madness. And actually, the Maze Madness game is so old that you can't even use the DualShock sticks with. You have to use the arrows. Like, the game is that old. I don't know if you can see that, but, like, it had normal Pac-Man, but it also had these, like, worlds, like, levels. And it wasn't, like, I don't know, it was kind of more like Crash Bandicoot. It was really good. And then this, which does not get played anymore, is the Dance Pad Revolution. I would like to check it out and see if it still works, but I don't think, like, people would like that in the basement. Just, like, pounding around to this, but I definitely played this along with, like, the Ikara karaoke machine. It was, like, of that era as well. I was never very good at it, but I really miss how they give you these detailed instructions with every game. Now they're just like, here's a whole world of 97 guns and you have no idea what you're doing. Bye. Like, that's how they intro you now. Those are my small stack of PlayStation games. I do have a few others, but these, honestly, I know they're very popular, but I didn't grow up with them. I was just given them. So I will show them, but I really have not much to say about them. I should definitely check them out at some point, though. But that's, like, some of my early on games. I haven't played the PlayStation 1 in a while, and actually I got, like, the Mii U device to play games like that on, but I haven't checked that out in a while either. My favorite device ever is probably the PlayStation 2. And that's kind of why I wore this also as a little ode to Guitar Hero, which I still have a guitar for the Xbox, but I don't have the game. And weirdly, I grew up with the PlayStation 2 Guitar Hero, like the original one. And this, like, was my game. And I've been replaying that. And then these are some of the few games that I still play. I definitely had a lot more than this over the years, but, like, the Bratz games and the Sims spin-off games for the PlayStation 2 are probably some of my favorite games. There's so much replay value. You can replay them so many times, like, I replay the herbs a couple times a year, and I still haven't beat it because you can just get so lost, like, doing randomness, and same with the Bratz games. Like, you get so lost, like, roller skating around, making their outfits and stuff, that you forget, oh yeah, there's this actual goal, and then you forget how to do it once you're so, like, many years into this game. And then, obviously, one of the OGs, San Andreas, and Persona, which was, like, a weird anime manga kind of game with a chat-based. It was like text-based fighting, and it was really cool. Honestly, the story was really cool. I feel like these games are kind of niche besides the GTA, so definitely let me know if you guys played this. This is probably my favorite one because you got to pick, like, styles, and there was Kicktail Park, which was, like, a skater style, and there was Central Station, which was, like, totally goth with, like, spikes and chains and harnesses, and then there was, like, Neon East, which was, like, the raver, kind of more Japanese-looking style, and I just absolutely loved that as, like, a preteen, and then Black Eyed Peas we're randomly on the game. And I remember, I think this one has it. Yep, it does. Obviously, nothing would happen if you did this now. But there was like an iTunes download for the Let's Get It Started in Simlish and radio version, which is pretty great. Yeah, here's some of the like pictures of the Sims. I don't know if you can see those, but the styles in this game were just freaking amazing. Like, honestly, it's so fun, and you can like level up into different apartments and stuff like that. I don't know, I could go on and on about that one, and there's like a niche following of it. There's not a ton of people who talk about that online, so I would like to get like an emulator on the PC and play it for you guys someday. If anybody would ever be interested in like seeing that, that might be cool. And then obviously another one that got me very much into gaming is The Sims 2, which I'm gonna have to flip the camera around and show you guys all the Sims 2 games I have. Unfortunately, you can't use the disc anymore. I just keep them for nostalgic collecting purposes because I grew up with these and I can't let them go. But you have to go download The Sims 2. Like, that's the only way I'm pretty sure you can play it, unless you have a computer that is stuck back in the olden days and like a Windows computer that you're able to install old games on still. I think that's the only way it would work. But a big one that got me into gaming is the Game Boy and the Game Boy Color. I used to have a Bugs Bunny Castle game, which I now play, and I had Sims Bustin' Out and Sims 2, which were amazing spin-off games. Please go look those up. And just a lot of really good Game Boy and Game Boy Advance games that are still so fun. Definitely check out the Mew device if you haven't already and are nostalgic. DS games, a bunch of Sims 2, and then all the way to, I did buy discs for Sims 4 when they were still selling them, up until they stopped. But I absolutely loved getting those Sims 2, like, actual game boxes and then going through all the instructions and seeing all the new stuff that the game came with. And Nightlife was my first one that my grandparents bought me back in the day, and then my friend had gotten a bunch for Christmas and she already had them, but her like little cousin opened them, so I was able to buy them from her family for cheaper, like they let me, and that's how I got a bunch of my Sims games, and it was so cool. But yeah, there's a little bit of my Tamagotchi collection as well, and a Grand Theft Auto for the computer. Thing behind the PS2 is the Wii games, which I need a new Wii cord and a new 360 cord, and most of my 360 games went missing along the way. I guess I still do have Guitar Hero. I did grow up playing The Sims Castaway and like the Shaun White snowboarding and the Superstar Mario for the Wii, which was very strange spin-off games, but really, honestly, niche and fun. Last but not least, the Nintendo DS, which it is 3DS now, but I started with the original DS, and I have had and gone through so many different games. This is a game that I got for $2, and it barely works. It works sometimes, but I grew up playing it, and it's like a text-based dating game. That is a really weird game. But yeah, they're all pretty typical, like, DS games. This is one that I grew up with also. I also used to have Nintendogs, and you know, this is one that I can never let go of. That's a fun game. Pokemon, which I was never super into. But yeah, that's pretty much like the nostalgic collection. I don't know if there is a game in there. Of course, my cat's hair is in there. Of course, it's Herbs, which is also totally a different game for the DS than it is for the PlayStation. Like, it's not even the same. So you should definitely pick up both if you are a Sims spin-off fan, because they have goals and they have very strange storylines, and they're really fun and quirky, like Sims 2 quirky. Sorry for the shakiness in the last bit of that video, but thank you for checking out some of my nostalgic game collection and hearing about my story through gaming, I guess. And if you guys want to talk about any of these games more in detail, I have played most of these a lot, except for maybe a few of the DS games, because those, like, I have picked up here and there, like thrifting or pawn shop when they're just really cheap and sound fun. But yeah, I absolutely love a good niche nostalgic game. I've only seen a few people doing the Bratz game, and I've only seen a few people doing the herbs, and I've never really done games on here, but I would like to, and or just like talk about it more. If you guys want to, definitely comment below. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about these games, because I love them. When I was a kid, I named my herbs character after a Tekken character, and I literally cannot remember her name because it was, I'm pretty sure, Japanese, and I don't know Japanese, so I feel like my, like, storage for that in my brain, it just wouldn't. But I used to do weird things like that and be obsessed with little different games and carry them over in my little crossovers. And the reason I never beat this game is because I was just messing around free playing. Like, I would unlock enough to move on, but I would never, like, beat the goals. So it's so interesting, like, replaying them as an adult and basically just having fun with the nostalgic gameplay. But you guys have a great morning, day, evening, or night, wherever you are in the world. I hope you're staying nostalgic and staying true to you, and that I see you soon. Bye.